So what does this mean for Canada first, before we come down to ask what it means for India? Joining me are two interesting ladies, Ruby Dhalla, who's a former member of the House of Commons of Canada, and Sharon Kaur, who's a political strategist, someone who understands the Canadian political landscape very well. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining me on this broadcast. Sharon, before I come to you, let me quickly rope in Ruby and just quickly ask her this, that well, Ruby, it's a landslide victory for Carney, and when is he expected to really, and how do you think he's going to drive the country towards elections? Because this is an interim arrangement right now. How do you see the path towards elections from here on for Mark Carney and for Canada?
Well, there is definitely a lot of work to be done by the new leader for the Liberal Party and the new Prime Minister in Canada. There are many challenges that the country is facing, that Canadian families are facing, and most importantly, there is a tariff tax that is being implemented and imposed by the President of the United States of America. So Canada has a lot of challenges, and people are looking for the new leader and the Prime Minister to go to an election within the coming weeks.
And also, Ruby, there's been a surge in the popularity of the Liberal Party. In fact, the Conservative majority that was expected in Parliament just a couple of months back now seems absolutely unlikely. They've arrested their free fall. How do you see that now impacting the larger political landscape in which Mark Carney is going to operate?
I think only time is going to, tell. Ultimately, it'll be in an election campaign where the Canadian voters will decide, which vision they want for the future of Canada and for the leadership that they would like for their families, for Canada's economy, for Canada's workers, because of the number of challenges. So I think that, when you're in the political world, a day is a lifetime in politics, and party fortunes, change day in and day out. And ultimately, it'll be the Canadian voters that will decide who will be elected as Canada's next government to lead it into the coming years.
He's only the second Prime Minister in Canadian history without a seat in Parliament. Many say he lacks political experience. He hasn't been in government. How do you see that impacting what's going to be, a very significant set of challenges that Mr. Carney will have to address right away?
Well, I can only base it, on my experience. As you will know, that I was a candidate in the leadership race for the Liberal Party of Canada, and also to become Canada's next Prime Minister. It was very historic. I am the first woman from the Indo-Canadian community, the first woman of color to actually run for the leadership of the Liberal Party of Canada. And I spoke in my campaign about bringing the party back to the center with some really progressive policy ideas that were the need of the hour, because I have not been involved in the Ottawa bubble and the Trudeau government for the last 10 years, but have really been living in the real world and focusing, on business, and focusing really on talking to Canadians and hearing about the many challenges that they are facing, for the increased cost of homes in the country, the increase in gas prices, increase in grocery prices, the threats of, the tariffs that are being implemented by President Trump in the United States. And as our campaign was growing, as we were building momentum, all of a sudden I was disqualified, and the party didn't realize of how much it would actually backfire, because people's anger across the country, across all party lines, just erupted. We had 5.8 million people alone on Twitter that engaged with us, another 4.8 million people on Instagram that engaged with us because they were so angry at the Liberal Party for this attack on democracy, this attack on justice, this attack on fairness. And people wanted to have, the right to be able to choose, to select who their next leader was going to be, and to actually have their vote and their voice in who the next Prime Minister for Canada was going to be. And going back to your question about, Mr. Carney's inexperience, I have actually been in 4 elections, and I have won 3 of those elections as a member of parliament. So both myself and the others that were in the race, except for Mark Carney, we are actually already battle tested, and I was battle ready because I've been through the election process. So no one really knows how Mr. Carney is going to perform, but what ended up coming out as a result of my disqualification is that they, the establishment did not want to have Ruby Dalla on the debate floor because she might be too aggressive for Mr. Carney. So when I hear those types of, remarks being passed by various party officials and other Canadians, hear of the fact that the Liberal Party establishment did not want Ruby Dalla on that debate floor, they become a little bit skeptical at the ability of, Mr. Mark Carney now as the leader to be able to take on the opposition leader who has spent his career in politics and is actually a very, very strong debater as well. And, we will know from running election campaigns, you have to know your issues. You have to know how to, how to debate, and you have to be battle tested and battle ready when you're going into this type of environment. So only time is going to tell what Mr. Carney's performance will be like in the coming days and the coming weeks.
All right. Let's leave it there, Ruby, and let's ask this to Sharon that, who's battle ready, who's battle tested, and what's the size and scale of the battle that Mark Carney is really looking at. And I guess, Sharon, the biggest battle that awaits him, of course, is the Trump tariffs. They kick in on the 2nd of April. There may have been some carve-outs, but Mr. Trump is very clear. Those tariffs are coming. A trade war is on its way.
And I'm going to get to that, but I want to go back to 1 second here because you have a panelist on here who just said a whole bunch of stuff that's not actually true. Listen, this today was about the new leader being elected. It was not a discussion about Ruby Dalla being disqualified for valid reasons. You cannot throw out these 5.8 million numbers. Twitter, X, these are not barometers for anything. So please, let's just cut that out and cut the crap on this. Mark Carney won because he.
Let's focus on Mr. Carney. Let's focus on Canada. Let's focus on Mr. Carney.
I'm talking about that. Mark Carney ran a campaign that was extremely strong. He is a 2-time central bank governor. You might not agree with the methods of how leadership battles happen, but there are checks and measures that are put in place. And Mark Carney checked all those checks and balances off.
Absolutely, he did.
Some candidates were disqualified for valid reasons, but he is someone who has experience. And when it comes to dealing with someone like Donald Trump, we're looking at an American government that did not have a lot of respect for the Trudeau administration for a variety of reasons. They dealt with NAFTA negotiations the first time around. I was part of those discussions. I saw the dynamics. So Mark Carney coming in now as the PM and as the leader will change that channel. It'll change that channel. He dealt with Brexit. He is.
How will that change that channel? That's a very important point and pretty much at the center of what Canadians would also be expecting from Mr. Carney. So how will that change? How will that relationship with Mr. Trump change under Mark Carney?
I think you have to look at it from the perspective of this is a bit of a fresh page. I don't think it's going to change Donald Trump's perspective completely. But if you remove Trudeau out of that question, which was his biggest, I would say, he called him governor, the 51st state. He had no respect for him. And I think with someone like Mark Carney, who is used to dealing with that type of personality, I think we will see that. But we're already seeing a shift with the retaliatory tariffs. We're seeing that with our provincial premier, Doug Ford, who's pushed back with cutting off electricity or tariffing the electricity. So we will see a shift in that. But it's only been a few hours. I think we have to give it a couple of days to see where he goes and whether he has a new cabinet come into place. But I would say for our international media colleagues, definitely expect a change in tone and tenor coming out of the U.S.
All right, Sharon, thanks much for giving that perspective. And maybe the next couple of days, you and I will have this chat again to talk more about what is the kind of transformation that Canada is hoping that Mark Carney will bring in terms of their relationship with the US. All right, shifting focus now, Justin Trudeau's handling of India-Canada relations is something that I want to focus on. And remember, it left a very sharp impact as far as the diplomatic and economic disaster that happened. And Mark Carney is determined. Shots of him with business leaders are there. Now Mark Carney steps in with a bold promise to rebuild the crucial trade ties with Trudeau that have been shattered in the past. But can Carney really fix what Trudeau broke? This report tells you.
This Canadian leader, Mark Carney, has vowed to rebuild Canada's strained trade ties with India, a relationship that crumbled under the Trudeau government. Speaking in Calgary, Carney said he will rebuild the trade partnership with India, calling it crucial to diversifying Canada's economy. He added that a shared sense of values would be key to this commercial relationship, signaling a major reset after years of diplomatic chaos. And Carney may just be the right man to clean up Trudeau's mess. Until January this year, he was chair of the board at Brookfield Asset Management, a global investment firm that holds over $30 billion worth of assets in India. Carney has seen firsthand the potential of India's economy, and now he wants Canada to capitalize on it. But Carney is walking into a disaster Trudeau left behind. In 2023, Justin Trudeau accused India of being involved in the killing of Khalistani separatist Hardeep Singh Nijjar. What followed was a diplomatic disaster. Trade talks were frozen, diplomatic ties nosedived to say the least, and any hope of any trade deal vanished. Trudeau's handling of the crisis didn't just cost Canada politically, it cost the country billions in potential trade. Under his government, India, one of the world's fastest growing economies, turned its back on Canada. And now Carney is promising to fix what Trudeau broke. His promise has already drawn praise from Canadian business groups who see Carney's global experience as a chance to restore economic ties with India. But fixing the damage won't be easy. With Donald Trump threatening to slam Canada with heavy tariffs, Carney's first few months in office could be defined by two urgent tasks: protecting Canada's economy from Trump and salvaging what's left of the country's relationship with India. Restoring this critical trade partnership could unlock billions in economic potential, reshaping Canada's global standing and economic future. But if he fails, it would cement Trudeau's legacy as the man who destroyed one of Canada's most promising global partnerships. For now, Carney is campaigning to undo Trudeau's foreign policy disaster and rebuild Canada's relationship with India from scratch. With Rhythm Arcadia, Bureau Report, NDTV World.
All right, let's get in Daniel Bodman and Manjeev Singh Puri to talk more about what is exactly at stake here and can Mark Carney really fix it. Daniel, let me start with you. The India-Canada relationship probably saw its nadir under Justin Trudeau. Do you expect Mark Carney to be able to repair it?
No, it all depends. It's a triangle between different things. It depends on how serious India is about the Khalistan issue, right? Because Mark Carney, unlike Trudeau, might not go full on the open woke nonsense, but Mark Carney is fully backed by all the nefarious factors that backed Trudeau. He's deeply in bed with the CCP. All the Khalistanis and Muslim Brotherhood MPs immediately backed Carney because it wasn't really an election, it was a selection. What our previous guest said about there being checks and balances inside a Canadian electoral race is an absolute lie. There are no checks and balances in internal party Canadian elections. Federal elections between parties are real, but when there's a internal party election, Liberal, Conservative, NDP, it's a fourth world banana republic system where the party basically gets to select who they want and then investigate themselves if there's any wrongdoing. So Mark Carney was actually the architect of most of Trudeau's economic policies. He's huge on green energy, mass migration. He moved his company, Brookings, that you talked about, to the United States from Canada. So he's had a hand in every failed policy that Justin Trudeau's ever designed. Now, with the Liberals and Mark Carney, it is probably true that he's still going to be fully in bed with the Khalistanis, fully in bed with the CCP. But what is likely is if India or Indian businessmen want to bribe him, give donations to his wife's company or do business with his wife's company, the Asia Group, they would probably get special favors by playing sort of standard liberal politics here.
Okay.
So if that's going to fix the India relationship, maybe. But again, there's a nexus he has to work with because he has to, the fight between Canada and India has the Americans somewhat in the middle because our entire case against India rests on American intelligence, like most Canadian intelligence cases do, rests fully on American intelligence. So unless he's willing to just go out and say, mea culpa, we were wrong on all of that, which he might, but then he'll face an uproar from the Khalistani base in his party. So if he's willing to just shoo that away,
Okay.
that'd be interesting. But it would be up to Carney, and I don't really see that happening.
Ambassador Puri, you want to come in there? There are expectations, but Daniel seems to be doing some sort of a reality check here.
Gauri, good morning, and thank you for having me in the program. I found this fascinating to hear three Canadians talk about their own country. Look, as an outsider, and frankly, they know their country better, it would appear to me that for the moment, the Liberal Party has made the best possible choice. They've chosen a technocratic person, somebody who knows the economy, somebody who's known in the world, and so therefore, how it went, what can I say? Relations with India, look, they can only go northwards. There should be no two ways about it. But let's also understand, for the moment, Mr. Carney's greatest preoccupation have to be the Canadian economy, the situation vis-a-vis the United States, and the upcoming elections, which should be announced very soon. We
Indeed.
are, yes, we think we are big players, but that's not necessarily the case. My own view, and I am subject to correction by those who live in that country, is that the elections may result in diminishing the parties which resulted in Justin Trudeau and the Liberal Party being a bit beholden politically.
Okay, so Jagmeet Singh could be defeated. And, I'm running out of time, but a quick question from both of you.
Yeah.
Let's keep it short. Just, Daniel, do you see that the Jagmeet Singh's party could be diminished in the upcoming elections and that could have a larger impact?
Yeah, Jagmeet Singh's party is doing terribly. They could turn this around if Jagmeet Singh decides to take the manna that fell from heaven and attack the global banker who calls himself a European citizen with 3 different passports and who moved his company to America, instead of attacking the conservative opposition. Then the NDP could pull through this. But if Jagmeet Singh continues to do the thing he's currently doing, the party will be obliterated, as it's currently looking like in the polls.
All right, let's leave it there, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's early days for Mark Carney as he's is yet to walk into office to be the next Prime Minister of Canada. He has only limited time. He has to call elections. He's going to lead the Liberal Party, who's now, of course, recovered from the free fall in its ratings. He has a lot on his plate, but of course, recovery and reviving the India-Canada relationship should be a key priority and focus for Mark Carney. Thank you so much for watching this special show with me, Gauri Devi.